is up, guys? Super Chris Productions here, and in this video I'm going to be doing my top 10 figures of 2019. Here on this green base plate I have about 60 figures that I've made over the course of the year. All of them are basically ordered for the time that I made them. And then I also have my big Bumblebee build in the back. Before I get into the video, I do want to start off by saying 2019 has been an interesting year. It has had a lot of ups and downs, but there's been a bunch of cool things as well. One of them being getting to go to Brick Fair, meet some of my friends in person, meet a lot of you guys in person, as well as I did get a in-person tutorial from Andrew over at AV Figures to do decal figures, which here are two of them that I've made from the 501st. I do plan to make and sell these guys next year. I have sold two already, but I do plan to make a lot more, and I may be doing a lot more decals instead of custom minifigures next year. I'm kind of not sure yet what I'm going to be doing. I don't have too much planned, especially since I'm not really interested in a lot of things that are coming out next year. The only thing that I would probably be making figures for is a part 2 for Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then also the Black Widow movie. Other than that, I don't have too many projects, and I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing. I do have a bunch of figures I will show at the end of the video that I am currently working on for a few side projects that I do want to try and get done next year. But something else I wanted to mention on here, because I haven't really mentioned it before, is that I've been in the LEGO community a lot longer than some people might know. Customizing, I've been doing this for about 3 years. I bring this up since it's basically the end of the decade, starting 2020. I used to actually do LEGO stop motion. I started a YouTube channel back in 2015 that went by various names. Currently it's LEGO Iron Man Studios, which I will link in the description below if you guys want to check out some of my older videos when I used to do stop motion. As some of you probably also know, I did start doing stop motion in the early days of this channel before fully moving on to customizing. I have been considering a lot moving back to stop motion, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so like I said, I just wanted to mention that since it is like the end of the decade. Just mention about my start in the LEGO community, and without further ado, now I can go ahead and get into this video. Alright, so first off, in the number 10 spot is Ray, and I picked Ray because she has some of the nicest fabric and electrical tape details out of all the fabric and electrical tape detailed figures I've done this year. Most of them were just basic jackets and stuff. This one was actually robes that I cut and shaped and wrapped around the torso, which again turned out really nice, and then along with her belt, her gun holster, and then she also has a very simple paint job which makes the figure actually look really good. And so that's Ray. Now we'll move on to the next figure. And number 9 here is a custom green arrow that I did of my own design. I do want to start off by mentioning that this is not a showcase. I'm not showcasing any of these figures. I'm just showing you the figures and why I think they make the list of my top 10. I will be releasing showcases for a few of these figures because some of them that you will see in this list actually haven't been showcased before, and there are other figures that I have that I had in the background of my intro that also haven't been showcased before. But so this figure turned out really nice of my own design with a lot of sculpt work and stuff, arms, torso, around the hood, and then he's got his quiver, then really nice paint details, at least I think. And I did forget to mention that a lot of these figures that I have on my list were chosen by my followers on Instagram. I put them up on Instagram and had my followers choose them, and so I'm just showing you guys ones that I ended up sorting through and picked from there, which I thought were actually the best. And now we can move on to figure number 3. And number 8 here is Rescue, and this is another new figure that I've made. I just completed recently. It took me almost half a year to complete. It's a recent figure I completed, hasn't been showcased, but this figure made the list due to the sculpt work on the torso, all the details on the arms, the helmet, the back, along with some of the paint work on the legs and stuff, and the arms. And so this figure, again, another one that turned out really nice this year, and that is why it is in spot number 8. Moving down to number 7, here is Captain Marvel, and this is probably the best paint job I've done on a minifigure this year, since majority of this was paint work, very few sculpted details, like the chest was just sculpted, and then the star, and also very few electrical tape details, the gauntlets on the arms and the belts. As you can see, all the details in the metallic blue paint that I did, and some of the details that do wrap around the torso to the back. And then also the sculpted hairpiece was sculpted from scratch by me. And yeah, that's Captain Marvel. Number 6, here is Daisy Johnson, or Quake, from Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This figure has pretty cool torso sculpt, pretty cool belt details, arm gauntlets, and then the hair was the female hair with the two parts over the sides that I sculpted over and tried to blend it, give her her hairstyle that she had for majority of the 6th season of the show, and has a lot of nice purple details on there in metallic purple, some shiny black details as well, and that's why Quake is on the number 6 spot. And number 5 here is Captain America from Avengers Endgame. This figure has a variety mix of fabric, sculpting, and cardboard, electrical tape details, and I did use magnets on this figure. He's got his helmet with fabric straps, a fabric chin guard, fabric straps around the torso, his magnetic shield with the straps on it, so it looks like he's actually holding the shield, and then all the sculpted details on the torso for the scales, and the same on the arms, and then the back, the buckle. And this figure turned out really nice with the various details, and that's why he's on spot number 5. In number 4, we have the 2012 Avengers Black Widow, and this figure made the number 4 spot due to it being one of the first figures where I actually started doing a lot more sculpted details instead of using cardboard, like specifically for the belt, and then the arms, I actually sculpted on the arms instead of using tape this time for her gauntlets. The pouches, I don't remember if they were cardboard or sculpted. They may have been cardboard, but this figure did turn out really nice, and I actually surprisingly got a lot of compliments for this at Brick Fair. And so that's why this figure has made it onto the number 4 spot. And on the number 3 spot, here is Iron Man with his nano gauntlet. And Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as Iron Man has been another amazing part of the decade. It's honestly really crazy we may not see him as Iron Man in any more future movies, but the Mark 85 is one of my favorite suits. It's probably the most detailed Iron Man suits that I've done, second to Rescue. As you can see here, all the tiny details on there. I mean, majority of details on a minifigure is considered tiny details, but these are really, I guess you could say, nano details. Yeah, so he's got a lot of sculpt work on the back, all the little details there, all the details on the arms, the shoulders, sculpted helmet, even sculpted nano gauntlet, and the knee pads, and all the paint work made this figure look really, really good. And so that's why this figure made it onto the number 3 spot. Nearing the end, here is another figure that I've made at basically the last few days of 2019. This is on the number 2 spot, the Sith Trooper from Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. I actually tried making this guy before the movie to try and get him done in time for the movie, and it actually took longer than expected, about 2 weeks making this guy on and off work. And I finally completed him. Showcase will be coming soon, which I will talk more about later at the end of the video. But this is a figure that, one of the figures I've made this year with probably the most sculpting on it. Besides the legs, the majority of the torso and the arms has a lot of sculpted work, a lot of little details that you can see on there, because the Sith Trooper armor has lots of grooves and grills and whatnot. So many details on the Sith Trooper armor that I tried as best as I could to capture it on my minifigure, and then he's got his gun. And so that's why Sith Trooper is on the number 2 spot. And now we can move on to a few honorable mentions. And moving on to honorable mentions, I actually had 6 figures. I think last year, my last top 10 video, also had 6 figures in honorable mentions, or about 4, I don't know, it was more than 3. This year I decided I would go with 3. It was a really hard decision, but I picked 3 that I liked. And there is Mysterio. His hand just fell off. Mysterio. That was a bit of a fail. And then next up is the Flash. And finally, the last figure in the honorable mentions is Charlie Watson. And that is it for honorable mentions. And now we can move on to the final figure. Alright guys, and here is what I would say is my number 1 figure of the year, Bumblebee. This figure is entirely sculpted. Everything on here, majority of it, is entirely sculpted. I didn't really use much official Lego parts or anything other than sculpting, basically. It does have some cardboard details, plastic details, Lego tires, and then again, other than that, it's a Lego base body that I ended up modifying, and I sculpted the entirety of all the armor, everything you see there, the head. I'm going to be honest here and say that this figure actually had in the back of my head, or the back of my mind, way back in January after I made it, I had a feeling this was going to be my number 1 figure of the year. And after a whole year, it still holds up, and I still think it is probably my best figure that I have done this year. It just has a lot of really nice sculpted details. I mean, it looks like a little Bumblebee action figure, basically. And you can see the sculpting on the inside of the legs, a little bit on the inside of the arms. It's not really detailed, but it's there. All over the shoulders and everything. Again, the cardboard and plastic for the doors, the sculpted head, that face on there, and the little Autobot symbol in the middle of the head. And yeah, that does it for my top 10 figures. And now we can go ahead and wrap up this video. Alright guys, so that about does it for 2019, and that also about does it for my top 10 customs of 2019. Again, I'm not too sure about what I will be making this next year. I'm currently in the process of still working on a few commissions that I'm hoping to ship out by the end of January. So those are getting done. Again, I do still want to move on to decal figures. Not completely, but just, on the side. I've had a few projects ongoing that I'm not sure when I will complete them. MCU projects. I was doing the 2012 Avengers. I had most of those done because I was considering doing the entirety of the MCU in a showcase of various figures. And here are basically some of the ones that I had as a work in progress. And then I do probably the first showcase that I do of 2019. I mean, not 2019. 2020. Sorry, messed up there. First showcase that I do of 2020 is probably going to be the part 2 for Crisis on Infinite Earths. Here are some of the figures there. Mia Smoke. Sorry, holding the camera with my hand. It's all over the place. Mia Smoke. Potentially Stargirl. I also have Dinah Drake, the Black Canary, and then a White Canary figure that I plan to do. I also do plan to make the Atom suit, and then possibly Wild Dog. And I do have a few figures Star Wars based from The Rise of Skywalker for a Part 2 showcase. I'm still planning on doing a Endgame Part 2 showcase. I know I also plan to do an Infinity War Part 2 showcase back 2 years ago, and I never did it. But the Endgame figures are coming along, so I probably will have an Endgame Part 2 showcase in a couple months. And then I have been playing a lot of PS4 recently. I can't remember if I mentioned that, but I have a Batman Arkham Knight figure that I plan to do. Item Versio from Star Wars Battlefront. And I have a few figures from Spider-Man PS4 I plan to do, probably about 6 figures I'll be doing from Spider-Man PS4. I recently completed the main story of that game, and Spider-Man PS4 is a really, really good game. I'm actually excited that they're doing a part 2 to it, and so I do have a lot of figures for that planned, and then I may start working on a lot more of my own design customs. I had a Black Canary started to go with my Green Arrow, but I never finished it. But yeah guys, that about does it for the video. Again, I'm kind of unsure how long I will be on YouTube due to the whole COPPA situation, because still a lot of stuff is unclear, and we are supposed to know fully what's going to happen in January 2020, so a few days or a few weeks. If anything does happen and stuff happens with my channel where I'm not able to use it or whatnot, most likely I will be moving to IGTV on Instagram. Still unsure about that. Regardless, I'm still excited to see what 2020 has to offer, and so let me know in the comments down below what you thought on my list, if you agree, disagree, if there's a figure that I didn't add to the list that you thought should be there. Just make sure to let me know in the comment section down below, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and Happy New Year!